good afternoon, and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding a light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. When we talk about Black excellence in the arts, in culture, especially in Harlem, we cannot not talk about the Apollo Theater, the mecca of Black culture, not only in this country, but all over the world. And today we have a very special guest who's gonna tell us everything about the Apollo, because he's been working there all his life since he was 15 years old. Mr. Billy Mitchell, welcome to My Harlem Portraits.
Thank you, Maria. It's so good to be here. Finally, we got to sit down and chat, finally.
Finally, we made it. It took some time.
Yes.
So Mr. Mitchell is an actor, a director, a voiceover artist. He's a mentor. He sponsors youth groups, and he's a producer and a lecturer. To tourists all over the world, to the Apollo Theater patrons, to the entertainers and the celebrities and the friends in the Harlem community, you are Mr. Apollo. That's your name.
Yeah,
so,
that's what they call me.
Mitchell, aka Mr. Apollo, which is also the title of your book, which is titled They Call Me Mr. Apollo. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, the name Mr. Apollo was given to me by the children of Harlem. I've never called myself that. I used to coordinate free movies for kids at the Apollo Theater. We had a program back in the early 2000s. And when the program ended, I would see the kids on the streets of Harlem and they would say, "Hey, Mr. Apollo, when are the movies coming back?" So eventually the marketing director at the Apollo at the time, Jackie Darley, she started referring to me as Mr. Apollo around the office. And then they started putting into our marketing literature. And before you know it, the media started calling Mr. Apollo. And I think they called me that because, as you mentioned, I've been giving service to the Apollo Theater. I don't like to say I've been working there, but I've been giving service to the Apollo Theater off and on for about 58 years. I started running errands there, and I've worked in literally every department in the Apollo Theater. So maybe that is the reason why I'm also titled Mr. Apollo.
Very good. So tell me about your book. What is the book about, and when did it come out?
Well, the book is about my journey, how I got to the Apollo Theater and the positions that been and opportunities that were afforded to me by the various owners. Because I've worked with 3 different owners of the Apollo Theater over the years, from Frank Schiffman, who was the one who originally asked me to run errands back in 1965. I'm not from Harlem. My mother was born in Harlem. My spirit is Harlem. I am so Harlem, but I married a lady from Brooklyn. So I live in Brooklyn, but everybody in Harlem thinks I live in Harlem, but I live in Brooklyn. So I started running errands there, and I got to meet so many wonderful people. And incidentally, I'm one of 14 children born and raised in Mount Vernon, New York. I am the 5th of 14 children. At the early age of 8 years old till I was almost 12, I was in 3 different foster homes. My family was very dysfunctional, very poor. We were constantly being evicted from where we lived, and we moved out of Mount Vernon to the South Bronx, and I became the oldest child at home with my mother. My 2 older brothers and sisters had left. The rest were all placed in the foster care. And then I was reunited with my mother after foster care, along with some brothers. And one day we had no food, so my mother sends me down to Harlem from the Bronx to borrow some money from her cousin. And the cousin just happened to live on 126th Street, right in back of the Apollo Theater, where is the schoolyard now. It used to be a row of buildings. And her cousin was there, and my mother sends me to go get $20 from her to get some food, because we had no food one day, no milk, no juice. And I go down there, the cousin wasn't home, so I walked up and down the block waiting for her. And I finally crossed the street and stood near the backstage door of the Apollo, not realizing it was the Apollo Theater, because I'm 15 years old from Mount Vernon. And all of a sudden the door opens up, and the Frank Schiffman, the owner, comes out and say, "What are you doing back here, kid?" I said, "No, I'm waiting for my mom's cousin, mister. I'm not doing anything." He says, "Well, why are you waiting? You want to make some money?" And I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. And so I got ready to run. And he says, "Calm down. I just want you to go to the store for people who are rehearsing for a show." And I started going to the store for them, going to, there was a boxer back then by the name of Sugar Ray Robinson who had a restaurant.
Yeah, Sugar Ray Robinson.
I would go to his restaurant all day long and get people's lunches and dinners and get their shoes shined and clothes pressed. And that was how I got to the Apollo Theater. And then when the Schiffmans shut down the theater in 1977, it was reopened in 1984 by one of my mentors, Mr. Percy Sutton. Yes. And the Apollo, and they ran the theater from 1981 from 1981 until 1991. And then Mr. Sutton gave up the theater, and then the state took over and formed the Apollo Theater Foundation.
We are talking about Percy Sutton.
Percy Sutton.
The very important figure in Harlem and personality, and did a lot of things for Harlem.
He was a businessman. He ran inner city broadcasting, which owned WBLS radio at the time, WLIB. He was a lawyer. As a matter of fact, he was Malcolm X's lawyer. He was the king of Harlem back then, Percy Sutton. And when I started working with him in 1984, when he opened the theater, because I was working in Midtown on Wall Street and financial institutions and banks, and I hated that corporate world. And when Mr. Sutton opened the theater, he hired me for the only position that was available, and that was as an usher. I came to Apollo as an usher. I quit a good paying job to work at the Apollo as an usher. Wow. But Mr. Sutton and his daughter, Cheryl Sutton, gave me opportunities at the Apollo Theater. And when they left, the new management gave me more opportunities. And I started asking if I could do tours of the theater. They said, "Tours?" I said, "Yeah, I hear people talking about the Apollo, and a lot of things they're saying are not really true. They go by folklore or what we talk about in the neighborhood, but none of it's a lot of it's not true. So let me just set the record straight by giving tours from my perspective and what I've seen with my eyes." Ralph Cooper, who created Amateur Night, used to grill me on information that happened at the Apollo before I was even born. So I took all the information. I used my theater background, and I created the Apollo Historic Tour. And how my book came out back in 2010, I think it was, the Obamas were in the White House. And we get a call saying that Mrs. Obama wanted to come and do a tour of the Apollo with her mother, her daughters, and some friends. And wow. I'm taking her around, and we're singing Temptations, My Girl on the stage, the Apollo, and we're just talking. And then at the end of the tour, she said something that people in Harlem have been saying to me for years, but I never took it seriously. They said, "You need to write your book." I said, "What book?" Nobody knows who I am. I don't know how to write a book. All that, all that negative stuff was in my head. And I finally sat down because I take suggestions from women. See, men can't tell me anything. I listen to women. And when Mr. Obama suggested I take write a book, I sat down for a whole year, not realizing what I was going to write. I just started writing my history. And I went to a friend of mine who had written several books. His name is Herb Boyd. And I said, "Herb, I need you to put together what I've written down into context." And he says, "Well, Billy, you're all over the place." I said, "I know, I don't know how to write a book." And he says, "You're dropping names of celebrities that are friends of yours. People won't believe that. Do you have photos with these people to add to what you're saying in your book?" And I said, "Yes." "You got photos with Denzel Washington?" I said, "I grew up with Denzel in Mount Vernon. I've known Denzel since he was 10 years old. I was in a scene in Malcolm X with Denzel. I got pictures with Smokey Robinson and James Brown, who incidentally gave me the money so I can go to business school after I graduated from high school. It was James Brown and Marvin Gaye." Yeah, it's all in my book. It's all in my book. And that's how the book came about. And it's just about my journey to the Apollo Theater. It's been out for, a few years now, but a lot of people are just finding out because I didn't promote it. I just figured, I got a book out and we'll see what happens. But I donate the proceeds from the books to these 4 youth organizations that I help sponsor financially. Playing on the Edge basketball team in Harlem, the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club, BALA, which is an acronym, BALAA, which means Big Apple Leadership Academy of the Arts out of Brooklyn, and another organization called Families United for Solutions in the Bronx. So the proceeds from the sales of those books goes to these 4 different organizations.
So this is very interesting and very important. I didn't know you had the book for so long. I just finding out.
Yeah, a lot of
I've
people
known you for quite a few years.
Yes.
And so tell the viewers where they can buy this book, because you are giving this, the money that you get from the book, you're giving to all these organizations. So that's a very important thing you're doing.
Well, the book can be, if you want to purchase online, you can go to Blurb, that's BLURB.com. That's blurb.com. And the book is titled, They Call Me Mr. Apollo. I also bring copies to work every day when I come to the Apollo Theater. So if you call me at the Apollo, you stop by, I can autograph a copy for you, because, you know, autographs are going to be very, very important once somebody transitions.
Yes.
You know, I found out, you know, so after I'm going, you know, that title, Mr. Apollo, on my book is going to be worth a lot, and it's very inexpensive. You know, you buy it on blurb.com, they're going to charge you a few dollars more, because, you know, they have to make their money, of course. And then they have to ship it to you, etc. So, but if you come by the Apollo, or you can call me, just don't show up at the Apollo, because if you come to the Apollo and ask to see me, the security gonna say, well, you have an appointment? They treat me like I'm Obama. Is he expecting you? You know, so call me at area code 212-531-5337. That's 212-531-5337, and we'll work out a way where you can stop by. I'll autograph it for you, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. It's a quick read. It's not a thick book, because I don't like reading a lot myself, so I figure maybe others wouldn't like it. It's just my journey from Mount Vernon as this poor little kid, you know, in foster care with this big family, and then I came to the Apollo Theater. Then Harlem dubbed me Mr. Apollo.
Wow. This is fantastic. I'm finding out this now together.
I know. We've known each other for a long time. And I know.
And you have told me about that. I'm going to get that book.
Yes, of course.
One copy for me.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So when you were at the Apollo in 65, you started at the age of 15. You were, as you said, running errands. And here I see the name of many very famous people in the entertainment business. Tell me some anecdotes about them.
Gosh, I used to run. I remember when the Motown record label had a tour that used to come to the Apollo called the Motown Review. And I'm running errands for the Temptations, going up into their dress rooms and seeing these tall, good-looking brothers with their iridescent suits. You know, I remember, you know, Smokey in the Mirror running for Smokey, and Flip Wilson, and Jackie Moms Mabley, comedian Jackie Moms Mabley. And she used to have us go up to her house up in White Plains and clean up her garage and give us a few dollars. You know, Flip Wilson, you know, the Spinners, you know, B.B. King, my dear friend Dionne Warwick. I love Dionne. Gladys Knight. You know, I'm running errands for these people that, you know, that later on are icons.
Yes,
but young
all
kids,
over the world.
Yeah, and some of them became very close friends of mine. If the Creator lets me live for next week, I'll be 73 years old. And I came to the Apollo when I was 15. So, you know, I got to meet a lot of wonderful people. I've been so fortunate. I realized that the Creator made this my purpose. Everybody has a purpose in life. And I didn't find out later on what my purpose in life was. And I finally found out that it was to serve the Apollo Theater. That's why I don't like to say I like working at it. I like to give service to our culture and to our community. Because my mother was born in Harlem. Can you imagine? My mother was born in the original Harlem Hospital, not the one that's on 135th Street in Lenox right now. That's not the original. The original was on 137th and Lenox. She was born there in 1923. May she rest in eternal peace. You know, so
same age as my father would be.
Really?
Yeah, he was born in 1923.
Yeah, had she lived, she would have been 100 years old on February 28th. Yeah.
And my father in March would have been 100 years old.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Ugh.
Wow.
Yeah, Maria. So
listen, you also, I saw that you remember that you saw the Jackson's 5 when they first won Amateur's Night at the Apollo.
I was there.
An experience. Tell us about that.
I was there that night. I was running errands. It was on a Wednesday night, like amateur, still done to this very day. Ralph Cooper was hosting amateur night, and they introduced these little boys. And I mean little boys. They weren't even teenagers yet. They introduced them as the Jackson brothers, right?
Mhm.
And they walk out on stage, and man, let me tell you, these kids, their choreography was like you could not believe. We had seen other kids on amateur night. They were very, very good. But there was something about the Jackson brothers that was a cut above all the others we saw. And their harmony, they had like this barbershop quartet type of harmony. It was tight. And after the show, they were leaving because they won. They won amateur night, and their prize. They came back, the next week, and they would pay them to come and perform.
Mhm.
I remember Mr. Jackson was hesitant about coming back because he says, we live in Indiana. We don't have the money to go back and come back. But they took care of them. They put them up in a hotel. They came back the next week as guests. But when they left the building that night, there was a crowd of people outside the Apollo Theater with their Polaroid cameras. Because we didn't have, we had Polaroids. They were taking the Polaroids of these little kids, and everybody was saying, wow, we hope that they get some kind of management or guidance to take them to another level, because we've never seen anything like them. And then the rest they say is history, but I was there the first time they did amateur night. I think it was either 1968 or 69. I was either 18 or 19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
My God. You really have experienced history of theater and music in the making. You
Yes.
really have. I'm so envious. I wish I could have
I'm
been
just
there.
blessed. I know where this comes from. I had nothing to do with the creator, just blessed me, and I'm just grateful, very, very grateful, Maria. You have no idea.
So as you said, you serviced in almost every department at the Apollo since
Yeah.
1984.
Right.
Of all the places you were, which sector was for you the most interesting to work in, or the most difficult one? Do you have any anecdotes about that?
Yes. Well, the most difficult was when I was a stagehand for the TV show It's Showtime at the Apollo. That was the most difficult because I knew nothing about production and how these guys, the equipment that they use and the this and the that. And a lot of people need to know that that is a very, very serious job. There is no show without a production crew. And shout out to the Apollo Theater production crew. They are the best in the entire world. So one of my jobs back then, when we were doing Showtime, was for me to get up on a genie, this thing that lifts you up. Yes. And I was supposed to put curtains under my arm, right? And close together what looked like a pin. And the genie was shaking, right? And I'm frightened because I'm up there, it's way up in the air, and the crew is downstairs laughing at me, and being embarrassed, I started yelling back at them using some choice words. So Jack, who was the stage man, he says, Billy, okay, we're gonna give you another job. They had me standing near the trestle, and I had to reach my leg over to reach another part of this apparatus. And my legs were too short and they were dangling because I'm a short dude, right? And so the next year, Jack says, Billy, I'm sorry. You're not cut out to be a production crew man. So we're going to let you go for Showtime at the Apollo. But thank God Mr. Sutton found me another job inside the Apollo Theater. But that was the most challenging. I think what I'm doing now is the most rewarding because I get to share the history of the theater with people that don't know. I've had people walk into the Apollo Theater, and as I'm taking around on a tour, they walk on the stage. I've seen people literally fall to their knees crying, saying that they never thought that they would ever be on the stage, the Apollo Theater. I talk about the Tree of Hope. They've seen it on television, but they actually see it in person.
Tell us about the Tree of Hope, because that's a very interesting story.
It really is. It's a tree stump that if you've seen Showtime at the Apollo or attended amateur night, there's a tree stump that when the contestants are called to come out to perform, they rub this tree stump, supposedly for good luck and hope. The operative word is hope. It's called the Tree of Hope. But the tree was actually originally located on 131st Street and 7th Avenue. Now, 7th Avenue is now called Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard, right? So imagine there was this tree right in the middle of the street. There was traffic going downtown. There was traffic going uptown. And across from the tree back then was a very famous theater in Harlem called the Lafayette Theater. You're talking about the 1920s, right? All the great opera singers and actors and everybody, they all performed at the Lafayette. So one day back in the late 1920s, out of nowhere, these unemployed entertainers, they came and they gathered around the tree and they started performing, singing and dancing and telling jokes and playing instruments. And they did that hoping that management from the Lafayette would notice them and offer them a job. And that started happening. The manager would come out, see these people performing. He says, I like that singer. Let's give her a job. I like that dance. Let's put him with the choir. I like this one. So people started getting hired. And being superstitious, they thought the reason they were hired is because the tree they were standing next to, it was giving off good luck. Then there were plans to fix the sidewalk where the tree was located, right? But in order to do that, the tree had to be chopped down. Before it was taken away, everybody wanted pieces of it to keep as a good luck charm. Well, Ralph Cooper, who created Amateur Night, and city officials, they decided to chop the stump of the tree off and bring it to the Apollo Theater so that on Amateur Night, when the contestants are called to come out to perform, rather than taking a piece off for good luck before they perform, they can now just rub it for good luck, hoping that the audience receives them well and they don't get booed. And that's how it's called the Tree of Hope.
Fantastic.
Isn't
I
it?
heard the
It's
story
incredible.
before and I was fascinated.
Yeah, yeah.
Really like the place where they gather to get a job, to be
Exactly.
hired.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell me about, we have another 3 minutes.
Yes.
Tell me about what you're doing now, the tours you do,
Yes.
how people who want to take these tours can get in touch, where they go to apply for the tour and to pay for the tour.
Right. Well, you know, everything that we do can be seen on the Apollo website, www.apollotheater.org. That's www.apollotheater.org. Now, mind you, make sure you spell theater, Theater. See, some spell it Theatre, but it's TER in our instance. So you can just scroll down. It tells you all about the upcoming events, about the tours, about what our education department is going to do, about us getting ready to open up the Apollo Performing Arts Center, just a few doors away from the Apollo in the Victoria building. It's going to be incredible. We're inside that building. We're going to be having our offices going to be in the Victoria. There are going to be 2 small black box theaters that we're going to be managing, a 199-seater and a 99-seater. In that building will be the Marriott Hotel. There are apartments in that, luxury apartments in that building. And we're going to be doing a lot of productions. So some of them are already on our website, the productions that's going to be done there. And the Apollo Performing Arts Center will also be a place where if people from the community, organizations from the community want to have an event or work on a dance routine or whatever, and they can do it at the Apollo Performing Arts Center rather than going downtown or elsewhere. We're there to help the community. We're there always to service the community. That is what the Apollo Theater does. Our education department is bar none. We have internships. We have workshops that are done at the Apollo Theater. People need to know we're not just doing shows at the Apollo Theater. There's a lot that we're doing there that people aren't aware of. Go to our website. If you want to find more, go to apollotheater.org, and just scroll down for all the things that we're doing at the Apollo Theater.
Fantastic. Last question. Just tell me what is an ordinary day for you at the Apollo. Ordinary day.
Right. I come into my office. I sit down. I say a prayer to get my day started. I ask the Creator to let me touch somebody with some love, enlighten people, and it just does something for me, right? I walk into the theater and I pay homage to the ancestors. I say a prayer with all the spirits that are in there, and it starts my day off. And I think the ancestors are looking out for me. That's why I've been there longer than everybody else. Some people have left for whatever reason, or got let go, whatever. But they've been keeping me around. So it's that my day starts off like that. And then when I greet the audience, the visitors in the lobby, and then start them on their tour, the questions and the looks on their faces and the smiles, that is so fulfilling that they finally made it to the Apollo Theater, and I'm still there because I get repeat visitors from tour operators that I used to do tours with 25 years ago.
Wow.
And it's there, Billy, you're still here? I said, yeah, I'm still here. Still here.
And what do? You take them around the Apollo, you show them all the people who were there because you have all the pictures on the walls and so on. You take them to the stage and
Yes.
you tell the story of, well,
yes.
happened.
And we also put on a little mock amateur night with the tour group. If somebody wants to get up on stage and sing a song, tell a joke, we let them realize their fantasy. We show them our wall of signatures because since 1989, our stage crew, they start having people who perform there sign their names on the wall of signatures that leads to the dressing rooms. So you'll see all these signatures of all these stars that have rocked the Apollo Theater since 1989, and that's part of the tour as well.
Oh my God. And you ask them if they want, they can perform. That is
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
That must be something really, an experience.
But you know,
a lot of foreigners, or is more Americans coming?
No, we get people from all over the world. That is the thing that's really the blessing. Because once we started doing the tours, it was just local people coming. Then as we marketed more, international groups started coming. From France, Germany, Japan, Italy, Australia, Belgium. From Africa, from the Caribbean, people from all over the world. They know about the Apollo Theater, and now they're actually coming. But most people can't believe it's so small when they see it in person, because on TV it's huge. It's only 1,578 seats, but there are, as a matter of fact, next year we're going to shut down for about 7 months. We're going to do a complete update of the lobby and the main auditorium and the dressing rooms and the bathrooms. A major upgrade of the Apollo Theater is happening next. We're going to shut down in June, and we probably won't reopen until February of 2025.
So you're talking about the Victoria Theater will be open or not at the time?
Yes, the Victoria Theater will be open, but the main historic Apollo Theater will be shut down while we're doing this upgrade.
But you will be able to do the shows that you would normally do at the Apollo at the Victoria Theater?
Exactly. We have shows already booked and planned, and people that we were supposed to do it before, but the renovation of the the construction of Victoria got, fell back a little bit, things happened, but now we're back on track. So, our incredible production crew and our programming department, our president, Janelle Procope, and Camila Forbes, our senior executive producer, Leatrice LZ, Laura Greer, Donna Liebman, the Apollo Theater, and Aldo Scrapani. These are people that are senior management that run the Apollo Theater. And I've been so fortunate to work with many different groups that were part of senior management. But this group that we have now, boy, oh boy, they are so
They're
good.
women.
And women.
All women, all very
women.
incredible,
Women run the Apollo.
Women.
Yep, women run the Apollo Theater.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, on this note about the excellence of the women who are really running the Apollo and your excellence, I thank you for your time. I thank my viewer for their time, and we'll see you back next Saturday, 12:30, for another episode of My Harlem Portraits. Bye-bye.
Love you, Maria.
I love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.